What have become some of the habits or practices or rituals that you feel you've formed that have aided this process of recovery? Community seems to be a big one of them. You keep referring to being around those people, reconnecting with who you were
Yeah.
before. What are some other things that you've really worked on that you think have been pillars of supporting you at this time?
I think service is a massive pillar in terms of getting outside of self. It talks about in some of the literature that I work from, the disease of addiction is rooted in self-centeredness. And in order to get outside of self, the quickest way to do that is to think about other people. It's like the thing that's under all of our noses. It's right there in plain sight, and yet we keep going on this journey of like, what do I want right now? How can I serve myself? What are my needs? What are my immediate family's needs? But to really actually, to find like connection with other people, it is to serve. And that's something in the recovery community that is one of the, pillars.
Wow.
That's a massive part of it. And it's looking inward. It's doing the step work. It is figuring out my character defects, really stripping down, figuring out who I am and how can I improve. And there's so much work to be done, and I've been in and out of the rooms of recovery for 14 years now. And I relapsed at the beginning of COVID. So I have a couple years, but I still feel like a newcomer. I still feel like this is brand new. And I'm just on the precipice of figuring out something that's going to open a new door.
Yeah. Service is such a underestimated habit and ritual. And hearing you speak about it in that way is so life-giving, because I think it's one of those things, as you said, we've just completely taken out of society. It doesn't
Yeah.
really exist in our vocabulary. It doesn't really exist in our recommendation to people or as an antidote to anything. But as you're saying, in the recovery community, it seems to be a big pillar and a big part of that. Do you remember an opportunity where you got to serve or something where you tried to do something like that, where you felt the benefits that you just described? Was there a particular example that stood out?
I don't know if there's a particular one that sticks out, but
Yeah.
I think even to piggyback off what you were just saying in
Yeah.
terms of society, even with this culture of like, okay, now we are working on our mental health.
Mhm.
Now I'm in therapy. Now I'm, eating healthy. Now I'm working out. Now I'm doing Bikram yoga, like whatever, like all of those things are fantastic, right? Like those are all great things of the self-care model that we have now, but they can still, without the balance of service, you're still thinking about me, 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 me.
Mm.
Right? Like, what do I need right now? How can I get my life? I need to talk about my trauma and all of that. And that's, again, fantastic. It's still easy to be thinking about self in all of those practices. And can you actually have all of that and that still balance? Am I thinking and showing up for other people?
Yeah.
And that can be as simple as, picking up a phone call that you feel like you're too busy to take. That can be as easy as listening to a story of someone when you feel like, you're running and gunning and you're trying to keep up with everything in life, and just slowing down and showing up for others when you don't want to.
Mhm.
That's the thing, is like, because service is, in a way, there's still a selfish component of service, because you are still, this feels good. There's something that feels good about it, but you're actually, benefiting others at the same time.
Yeah, and it's so counterintuitive, right? Like we constantly feel like we have to focus on ourselves to solve things. But the studies actually back up what you're saying as well. There's so many studies on depression that show that even people who are depressed, who support other people who are going through depression, are happier than those who are not supporting that community. And so it's
Right.
even about supporting that same community makes such a huge difference. And I know that for sure in my own life, that was the insight that saved me too, was because for me, the change happened that I worked harder on myself in order to serve people better.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying by
Right.
the balance, it was like the more I try to serve others, the more I realized that I needed to be purified through and
Yes,
cleansed.
that's real.
And so then I worked on my purification and cleansing so that I could
Yes.
try and give back better. And again, this is a daily process. I haven't arrived either. But that cycle became a really beautiful cycle where it's like, let me work on myself so I can give my best to others.
Yes.
Now that I've given my best, I need to refuel. And then that becomes this beautiful journey that you go on as a human. And I feel like for me, I'm there today too, where I'm trying to pour out into people and then I'm trying to pour in so that I have more purity to pour out.
That's a really good observation. And I think that, yeah, it is a cycle. It's a constant, evolution of like, oh my God, I've been giving so much. Like now I need to refill the tank, the spiritual tank or whatever it is, that does get depleted and that there is this balance that needs to be found. It's much easier said than done.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.